Because it's been on other things to do.
Okay, I was informed.
We're raising the bar.
You sure you want that to happen?
I think with Margaret. Is there room for Phil? There's room for Phil, because if not, Philip, I can move.
I feel like he needs to sit in the middle.
We're like three of these. I'll stay. I know I'm this side. I'm my
Good evening. I'd like to call the January 11th monthly school board meeting to order. If we could all please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I'm going to ask Dr. Huster to please read his minutes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So can I please have a motion to approve the agenda before we get started with our meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you. So a little out of order. We've got a couple things to do real quick before we get into the fun part, recognitions and presentations. I will need an approval for the second reading of policy BCA for school board organizational meeting.
I'll make the approval to approve the change to the policy of BCA.
Can I have a second?
I will second that.
All those in favor of changing that policy and updating it, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, policy BCA, Tammy, has been approved. So having approved that policy to reorganize for the month of January, we will begin our annual board reorganization. And I'm going to ask Tammy if she will start guiding us through what that reorganization will look like. Yep, we all should have a sheet from us that talks about the positions, the details, all of that. So
Somebody needs to nominate someone.
Okay, I got it. We'll get it going.
We're good.
Yep.
I move to nominate George Cheap as chair for 24-25.
I'll second.
And Mr. Cheap has expressed his interest in that position, so all those in favor of, do we want to do it by position or just as a slate? Okay, so we'll do it as a slate. So George as the chair for 2024-2025 is the nominee right now.
And it's been seconded.
It's been seconded.
Yep.
Got it.
So
I'll make a motion to nominate Margaret Claire as vice chair.
I'll second.
okay. And then Tammy, you want to, for clerk, we have,
I move that we, yeah, that's what I was going to say, that we have Tammy be our clerk for 24-25. I nominate Tammy for our clerk. Tammy.
I'll second.
okay. So the deputy clerk has traditionally been Shannon Irvin, and so Ms. Irvin.
I will nominate Shannon Irvin as deputy clerk.
And I will second it.
Okay, thank you. Meeting schedule to keep this, we've been doing second Thursdays of each month, so.
Just a little tidbit. Earlier in the year, at the beginning, we voted for the April meeting to be on the 3rd. It can be on the 2nd.
Okay, and so we'll come back, this is for next year, we're gonna do that as an action item next.
This year, okay.
Oh,
Yep,
gotcha.
yep.
So
I want to make sure I didn't forget that.
So just to clarify, because she brought that up, that we are voting for the calendar meetings from January through December, or are we starting from June to?
We're starting, so for this, purposes of this, it will be for July through that next school year.
Okay.
For purposes of this.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna
our meeting
do some,
schedule-
we may potentially do amendments to the meeting schedule after discussion, it depends on what comes up, but that's a later action item.
Okay. So it's actually the meeting schedule is following the school year?
Yes,
Okay,
correct, yes.
fair. Okay, just.
Yep,
Oh,
so
we should
the
have
meeting
that.
schedule,
I will vote that we keep the meeting schedule as the second Thursday of each month.
I'll second.
all right. Location, we have traditionally continued to use the old Board of Supervisors room here. We can by meeting, amend that or adjust that as we need by meeting, but as an anchor spot, if everyone approves, then we would need a motion for maintaining our location here.
I'll make a motion to keep the location as the old Board of Supervisors room.
Second?
I'll second.
All right.
And prep representative and alternate, Margaret Claire was the representative last year with Caesar Perkins as the alternate. Would we like to keep that, or does someone have some interest in that position?
I will vote to keep Margaret Claire and Caesar Perkins in that role as the prep rep. Oh, that rhymed.
Yeah.
Prep rep and
Prep
alternate.
rep.
May I have a second for
Yeah,
that?
second.
Okay. So Blue Ridge Virtual Governor School has been myself as the primary, George Cheap as the secondary.
I nominate Shannon as the VRGBS. Is that right?
BRVGS.
VRVGS.
And,
Sorry, George as the alternate.
I'll second.
okay. Authorization to sign documents in the absence of the superintendent. Shannon Irvin has held that role.
I nominate Shannon Irvin to be the authorized person to sign documents in the absence of the superintendent.
I'll second.
Okay. And then authorization to sign documents on behalf of the board. Dr. Hester has maintained that role.
I'll vote to keep Dr. Hester in the role to sign documents on behalf of the board.
I'll second.
Okay. And then Nelson County Education Foundation rep, I've been the delegate for that with Caesar Perkins as a backup.
I nominate Shannon, whatever your last name is.
Powell.
Sorry. What?
Powell.
Powell. I nominate Shannon Powell for that position. And who's that?
Caesar Perkins.
Caesar is the alternate.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thomas Jefferson Adult Ed Board Representative and alternate. Caesar Perkins is that representative and George Cheap is that alternate.
Where are you reading this from?
From last year. Just- just a moment.
I'll nominate Caesar Perkins as the Thomas Jefferson Adult Ed Board rep and George Cheap as the alternate.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. And then for purposes of our annual convention, we need a delegate and an alternate delegate to vote at the assembly. So that has traditionally been the chair and the vice chair to do that if we need to make adjustments as we get closer based on schedules. But for now, it would need to be chair and vice chair. So for
So that would be
George,
George and me.
George
Yeah.
and Mark.
But I'm not sure I can nominate myself.
No, I can do it.
Okay.
I will nominate George Cheap and Margaret Claire as delegate and alternate delegate to vote in the assembly.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a slate for a board reorganization. Any discussion about the slate of officers and positions that we have put people in? Barring any discussion, if I can have a motion to approve the board reorganization for 24-25 as a whole, I'm looking for that motion.
Yep. I'll make a motion to approve the school board reorganization for 24-25.
I'll
May I have-
second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor of the reorganization, please say aye.
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 Oppose? And anyone abstain? Okay, the board reorganization has been approved. So because we are doing the board reorganization tonight, that means that we will move the responsibilities over. So George will be the chair moving forward from right now, Margaret the vice chair. Mr. Cheap had an emergency at work and very sadly is unable to be here, can't make it. As public servants, we know that sometimes people have to do things for their jobs and for the service of the public. So Margaret Claire is going to take that role over for the rest of this meeting. Thank you, Margaret.
You're welcome. Thank you for being chair for a year and a half. You were a trooper, and yeah, thanks for electing me as vice chair. So now we need to approve the school board meeting schedule for January through June 2024 because we had some adjustments, and we're gonna change those back, I think, right?
If the board so decides.
If the board so decides. The one that we had reorganized, which I think was in April,
Yep.
date can go back. We had moved it because we had, the superintendent was traveling and now she can be here. And so we're gonna move it back to our regular second Thursday, if that's okay with everybody. So if that is okay, I'll take a motion to approve that.
There's that look for everybody's schedule, because again, I think when we initially set it up, we had to set it up for the third Thursday.
Right.
But she doesn't have that meeting, so I don't know if anybody planned their schedule.
When is spring break again?
The first or the fifth.
Okay.
Yep, it's Monday the 1st, Friday the 5th, and so originally our meeting was scheduled for the 18th due to travel, but the typical second Thursday would be the 11th,
Gotcha.
so that we could come back from spring break.
That'll work.
Okay.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve as presented the board meeting schedule January to June 2024 that includes adjusting the April meeting back to the second Thursday of the month.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, that passes. Thank you very much. And now to the good part of the meeting. We are doing recognitions and presentations. Dr. Hester,
All right.
take it over.
We'll make sure I get this correct. So the first thing we'll do is our recognition, so I have to take all my stuff over here. So I apologize.
All right.
Relocate it. So the first recognition that we're going to do, so I'll ask that Mr. Judd Culver come up here. I don't believe your wife was able to make it this evening, but we appreciate you being here. Yes, okay. So just to give you a little background of the role that Judd played and his wife was, back in November, he and his wife generally donated around 350 Kelly bronze turkeys for all of our staff. And then was a really good sport in helping us load all 350 turkeys onto 3 different buses so we could make that trip back to be able to distribute it to everyone. And I don't know if you know anything about these turkeys, but they're wild turkeys, right?
Be wild.
Yeah, bred to be wild. And the way I always think in my head is like just yesterday they were running around. Yeah, and it was a special gift. And I know that our staff greatly appreciated it, going into the holidays, particularly Thanksgiving. And you were able to do that for us last year as well with the assistance of Nelson 151. But this year you really kind of shouldered that responsibly single-handedly. So we appreciate that. It meant a lot to us. We were going to recognize you last month, but I know you were busy doing your job. So we just want to say thank you so much for your support and dedication to Nelson County staff. Here you go. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. All right, the individual next up, so Mr. Mark Whitehead, please come up here. So thank you so much, Mr. Whitehead. What we're recognizing Mark Whitehead for today is through Tiger Fuel and ExxonMobil and their generous donation of monetary checks to each one of our schools. And those types of gestures go a long way, particularly with our staff and being able to support them and our students in anything that would possibly come about that would be of need. And so we want to thank you so much for being able to take time out of your night to be able to be here, but also the generosity that you showed to donate to us. So thank you so much.
Try to do that every year.
We're going to write that down.
Yeah.
Streaming, it's been documented somewhere. So thank you very much. All right, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so next up for our recognitions is our One Nelson. For those of you who don't know, One Nelson is that mentality of knowing that it takes more than just teachers or staff or students to make everybody successful. It is a collective effort and contribution to all of this. And so this is always one of our favorite things to be able to celebrate. So the first individual is our student. So that's Ms. Chandler Giles. Will you please come up so we can fully recognize you? All right, so I'm going to read to you what the nomination was. So those of you who also don't know, we have a form that's online, also gets passed around, so a community member can nominate, a staff member can nominate, a parent can nominate. It didn't happen in this case, by the way. But anybody can nominate. It can be for a student, a staff member who's certified or classified, and then also a community member. And so the reason why I am nominating Chandler Giles for the One Nelson Award because she consistently demonstrates an unwavering commitment to supporting her teammates and student peers. Even when faced with adversity, such as her injury last year, Chandler's dedication never wavered as she continued to show up and provide valuable support to her team in various events throughout the county as a volunteer. Her actions exemplify the very essence of Nelson County pride, serving as an inspiring role model for the community and embodying the spirit of unity and support that this award represents. Chandler Giles is a true symbol of the values we hold dear in Nelson County. So congratulations, thank you so much. That's me. Okay. Oh, let's start again, because I then was,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was it.
okay, it was
My
bad.
apologies.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, yes. Congratulations. Yes, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, our next award winners for the community recipients, Mr. Weston Siegel, please come up. All right, thank you very much, and I will read to you. If you've ever met this guy, he's 100% one Nelson. He's constantly coaching multiple soccer teams and volunteering at every school event. He made the best soup we've ever had for teachers, and his carrot cupcakes are to die for. I didn't have any, though. There are multiple Rockfish boys that look up to him and see him as a second dad because they don't have a father figure. I watched him run the cakewalk recently back in the fall. I think he knew 90% of the kids and made them all smile and feel welcome. His company sponsors events, and he's the kindest human being. There's no one more fun than Coach Weston. Always water balloons when it's too hot. He lifts up the children and makes them smile when they are down. So that is why you are this month's One Nelson Award winner. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much. Can you hold on 1 second? It's a mug with One Nelson on it. Everybody needs more mugs.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank
You
you.
can have one. Thank you very much. All right, our next award winner is one of our staff members from the classified division, and it is Mr. Tim Campbell. So please come up. Thank you very much. All right. So at the end of the VHSL One Act Play Festival sub-regional competition, the Dan Rivers team bus broke down outside of the middle school and high school complex. The teacher from Dan River sent word to their division of the situation, and while she waited to find out if there would be a bus coming to get them, the Nelson Transportation Department got to work. Tim pulled up, spoke with the driver, ran diagnostics, and got their bus up and running. Thanks to him, they were able to get back safely and much earlier than if they had been required to wait for a new bus from their division. He was both professional and courteous, and his warm demeanor helped to put the bus driver at ease. And that is also in addition to the multiple times I have had to have help from Mr. Campbell that I had my moments where I couldn't figure it out. So they are very willing to drop whatever he's doing to be able to help everybody out. And so I greatly appreciate it. So congratulations. Thank you very much. I know that's so we're going to sailing.
Yeah, I know.
It's good, isn't it?
We were
Yes.
stuck in Dan River with the broken down bus, and we did have to wait.
All right, our next recipient is from the certified classification, and that is Miss Janet Page. All right, so Janet always has a smile on her face. She's always willing to help in whatever area she is needed. She is a treasure. She welcomes all students to her classroom with a big smile and with a belief that they can succeed. She is the epitome of a team player as she demonstrates flexibility, support, encouragement, and hard work regardless of the challenge ahead. Additionally, Janet is a lifelong learner who is taking classes to build up her craft of teaching. She is positive with her students and celebrates their learning milestones. Janet has been a supportive mentor teacher this school year to a new teacher in our division. So we want to thank you for everything, all the different things that you do to support not only our students but our staff. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Yep, can't forget these. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. Sorry. Never mind.
All righty. Do you tell them that they can leave now, or you wait until
Yeah.
public comments, right?
No,
Take
it's
them.
like that.
Oh, yeah, if you guys want to leave.
Seems like-
So if anybody, you can all stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting, feel free, but if you have other things to do and you would like to go ahead and go, feel free to do that as well. But right now, what we'll do is go to comments from board members, and I'm going to start at the end. Mr. Perkins?
Well, Happy New Year to everybody. Glad to be here. Look forward to the finishing up the year strong, starting the new year strong, finishing the school year strong. And appreciate all y'all staying for the upcoming events in this meeting.
Ms. Turner-Giles?
Yeah, just want to thank all of our administration, all of our teachers, everyone that is involved with getting our students back. I've heard that it's been a great start to the new year, so thank you for everything that you do. Also hearing lots of excitement about our high school play, and I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit more about that. But I, for one, am really looking forward to that production.
Thank you. Ms. Powell?
Okay, so I think our big thing since our last meeting, beyond all the great things the students are doing, were the announcements of our Teachers of the Year. So congratulations to all the schools and the Teachers of the Year there. That is that's quite an accomplishment, and kudos to our winners there. I want to thank Mr. Perkins. We've had a great ride for about 18 months, and just acknowledge his partnership with me for the chair and vice chair role, and I appreciate all of your support and guidance through that. And to the rest of the board for the support and guidance. And it's been a great experience, and I appreciate all the help you had to give me along the way. So thank you guys very, very much. And welcome back to school. It feels like we just met and we just saw you. So I'm going to pass it back to Margaret. Thank you all.
Awesome. I like being last because I don't have to say anything because they've already said it all. And I just have to say ditto or something like that. But I would like to say thank you to Ms. Powell and Mr. Perkins for leading us through the last 18 months. I know that when I was chair, it was the 12 months seemed like it was never going to end. And so here I am back again. So fun how that rotates. So I just love the recognitions and the presentations. I mean, the recognitions of everybody who's really taking our One Nelson and going and just exemplifying that in the community. And I just really want to say thank you for all of that. It's so important, I think, for us to really feel like we're the one community, no matter where we are. So I really like that. Glad to see that the school year is starting off with a bang. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the play and everything too. I would really want to get to a basketball game this year, so that's my focus. So, and yeah, well, I guess we'll just go on if we have no more comments. Nothing else. All right. Thank you guys. And I haven't looked at the important dates for this. If you guys, I think if we have anything that we need to call out, I think probably what we are coming up on is the beginning of the budget work sessions and that sort of thing. So if you guys want to be involved in the budget scenario, I mean, I encourage it. Everybody should be involved in this. And we would appreciate your involvement too. So unless there's something specific that we need to call out in important dates, we'll just move on.
School principals. Well, yeah, School Principals Week next week as a board. We want to say thank you to all of our school administrators and principals for all that they do, for sure. And don't go to school on Monday.
Oh, right. That's the most important.
In terms of VSBA meetings, we do have the Capital Conference coming up.
Right.
Not this weekend, but the following weekend. So those are opportunities for advocacy and continuing to promote all things that we do. So that specific to the various states, that is one that is coming up quickly. We just had the VASBO Fall Conference where the focus is on not only the professional development, but really having some conversations about budget, upcoming legislative pieces and things of that nature. So it was a really nice experience to be able to be around other superintendents and CFOs and the different speakers to be able to share and enlighten certain aspects of the things.
Thanks. Well, we might roll right into comments from superintendent.
All right, I have to write mine down or else I forget them, so my apologies. We're halfway through January already, but we're still saying Happy New Year because this is the first time we've had everybody back. So Happy New Year. Hope everybody's winter break went well. We always look forward to it. It seems like it takes so long to get here and then it flies by, but it was a nice break. But even better, we get everybody back in our buildings. We do miss our students and our staff when they're not here, so just welcome back. We've missed you. The Teacher of the Year awards, that's always fun. We get to travel to each of the schools and be able to recognize the teachers who have been nominated per school, but I think what makes it even better is it's peer recognized, and that's a lot more valuable and meaningful. And so we transition into where those individuals will now be interviewed and go through the process of determining our Nelson County Public School Teacher of the Year. So that will be coming in the next few weeks. Christy Massey was the Ty River Teacher of the Year. Gordon Dalton was recognized as the Rockfish River Elementary School Teacher of the Year. Bethany Grooms for Nelson Middle School, and Paul Cannell for the high school. So we appreciate all that they've contributed and really are happy for them for that recognition. So congratulations to those individuals. I do want to take just a little bit of time because it's happened quickly. 2024 has already started out with interesting weather. So since we are anticipating the possibility of even more inclement weather coming up next week, I thought I'd take just a little bit of time. It always seems like it's supernatural how we make these decisions, but there is a process that we go through. We have several division staff that work on this. We work on a team. We have Mr. Taylor Ashley and Mr. Les Campbell, who really are at the forefront of kind of taking on the responsibility of going out and driving the roads, or we're always eyeing the weather forecast, and that starts sometimes a week ahead of time, sometimes a couple of days ahead of time. 3 days?
3 a.m.
3 a.m. Well, that's when the physical part starts to place. We get up, we start driving the roads around 3 a.m., and depending on when we think things are going to happen, we check, and NOAA. That's one of the big sites that we use, as well as the sheriff's office. I'm texting the sheriff early in the morning or late at night saying, hey, any information you may have, please let us know. VDOT workers, the organization, we in local news channels. Believe it or not, when you become superintendent, they don't hand over to you a crystal ball or a fancy specific weather app that no one else has. It's the same stuff everybody else has, and we just have to do the best we can. We're about 474 square miles with a very interesting topography and terrain with mountains and low-lying areas, and it really offers some unique weather opportunity. So our road crew goes out early in the morning and sometimes at night. Like most recently, I think it was Monday evening, we had individuals driving around at night just to see how much it had flooded, and that really allowed us to make some decisions. That was Monday night, but for Tuesday night also. So, and that brings me, why did we close? Well, because we had freezing rain in the morning. And so when we look at these decisions, we look at when our people are going to be on the road, in the morning and the afternoon. So it's not just morning issues, it's what's taking place. And so what we recognize most recently is there was going to be a problem in the morning, but there was also going to be a problem at dismissal time. And so I will err to the side of caution and really look at the safety of not only our students, but our staff who come from all different directions. We have young drivers. We have high-profile buses. We have a lot of different components that we look at when we try to make these decisions. One of the feedback that I got last year is, can we make it earlier? As best I can, we'll try to make that decision in the evening, but we can't always do it. So we'll have to do it in the morning. When the morning decision we needed to make this year, we made it by 5:30, and we're able to get the call out by about 5:35, 5:40. That was the feedback that we got from a lot of people. The earlier you make it, the lot easier it is for everybody to make decisions and make arrangements for childcare, what have you. I've even gained the interest, like even if we make the call and it's early and it's wrong in terms of it ends up being like 60 degrees and a beautiful day, people would much prefer to know that and know it early than to have a late call. So we're working on that, and we try very hard. We're going to try hard to get those decisions out by 5:30 in the morning if we haven't done it the night before. So I know 2-hour delays can be difficult, but sometimes that's the decision we need to make as opposed to a closure. We make the robocalls, the school messenger call, phone call, email. Sometimes your neighbor is going to get that call maybe 3 minutes before you do because of the way the messages are sent out. It's not personal. It's through the system. And then we put a message on Facebook. We try to get a message sent out through the app. We put it on our website. We also notify our media outlets, WSET, CBS Night, all these different local media outlets. We put the message out as well. And I just run through that because sometimes we get that question like, what's the process? What's happening? We know maybe next Tuesday it could be another fun evening Monday night or Tuesday morning. You never know. So just wanted to run through that real quick so people understand that process and how we do it. And last but not least, The next week is the Virginia School Principal Appreciation. We want to thank all of our principals for everything that they do to support the students, staff, the schools, and the community overall. So, thank you.
Thank you. Now we get to have comments from our student representatives.
Yeah, we have spring sports preseason workouts starting this week. We also have SOL retakes that have been going on this week. And also, the deputies have been a really big help, helping the buses and the drivers get on 29 after school, controlling all the chaos. And it's been running really smoothly, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been a good first week. We've also had lots of rehearsals, like you're talking about, for the musical. I believe it's the second weekend of March. So yeah, so everyone should come and see it because everyone's putting a lot of hard work into it, Mr. Kirshner especially. So definitely come support. It looks really good so far.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's good to hear that the deputies are being appreciated there.
They and just to insert, I've spoken with Sheriff Embry, and he really wanted to make sure that they were doing what they could to support Monday through Friday with the bus dismissals to make it as safe as possible. So they've put a lot of effort into doing that. And we have a new SRO at the high school. So Mr. Brown, he is now at the high school. The other Mr. Brown is still at Ty River, and then Mr. Templeton is at the middle school, with the hopes that we'll have one replacement at Rockfish in February. We're working towards that. So we hope to have that completed. So I appreciate the assistance with that as well.
Perfect. And now we have comments from, no comments from the public? Okay. And we will move on to the consent agenda. So the consent agenda consists of the second reading of our minutes from November 9th, the registers for December, and the monthly financial report for December. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda unless somebody has comments or questions or corrections.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as a whole.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Okay, that's approved. Thank you very much. We can move on to the items for information. First one is the meeting minutes. This is the first reading of our December meeting, so please, if you guys have not already taken a gander at that, please do that and let Ms. Ponton know if there are any adjustments or changes that you need to make to that before next month. The next one is the update on capital improvement plan projects by Mr. Campbell.
So we had a short month in December, but there were some things that kept going. One of the exciting things was the asphalt portion of the roof was completed on January the 3rd. So we're all excited about that. Phase 2 of the metal coping has been completed. They're actually on phase 1 now. They started on the CTE wing and they're working their way back to the middle school. That should be completed by the end of this month. So the renovation, just confirmed today the schedule. We had some questions. The Mosley has contracted TrueScan to come in and scan the renovation portion of the building, what we're going to renovate. We had a few questions for them. They finally answered them all, so we've given them the green light to start that. They're going to start Monday. They're going to scan the building. They're going to take photographs, and they're going to scan. It'll go on through Monday and in the afternoons once school is dismissed for the day. And that's to get better. We have blueprints, but sometimes they're not as accurate as if they was to come in and scan each room and take pictures of exactly what they're facing once we start the process with the contractor and get moving on the larger portion of the renovation. The other piece to that renovation is we call it the grant portion of the renovation, which is what we've been working on up through December, trying to get everything done with the HVAC to try to satisfy the grant needs. And we were able to get all POs assigned to all the contractors and vendors, so we're just working now to get that work scheduled. The only one that we run into problems with was the overhead doors on the CTE wing. So we were unable to get a cooperative purchasing with the company. So we put that out to competitive bid, and I've just received the last one this week, so we should be able to get that included as well once we get those 3 bids tallied up. So anyway, I think if you get any questions.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
A lot of this
Yes,
helps.
thanks for your persistence through.
And now we get an update on the electric buses by Mr. Ashley.
Good evening, everybody. Back in December 14th, I think that was the last board meeting, the same day we took delivery of our 2 electric buses. So we've had them for just over a month now. But just to give you a little background, back in November of 2021 is when President Biden signed into law the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is also called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Part of that included $5 billion over 5 years, basically to help fund zero emission or low emission school buses. So there was $500 million for zero emission and clean, which is your compressed natural gas or propane fueled buses. They're just a little bit cleaner than gasoline or diesel. And then $500 million for only zero emission school buses. So we applied for the funding in the summer of 2022, and part of that we had to designate 2 buses, 2 of our current buses on the road. They had to be in service for 3 or more days a week during the 21-22 school year. So with that, we chose probably our 2 oldest buses, bus 27 and 28, ranging anywhere from 15 to 20 years of age at this point. I'm a little bummed bus 27 only got to 294,000. We couldn't push the extra 6,000 to hit 300, but we tried with our awesome mechanics that keep our buses rolling every day. The second bus we retired with 214,000. So with those 2 buses, part of the grant program is that we have to demolish the 2 buses. So with the help of Sonny Merriman, who we purchased our buses from, they will take care of demolishing them, providing us a certificate that we have to provide for the EPA grant that we got. Again, like I said, we applied back in summer 2022. We were on the list of prioritized school districts at that time, based on our rural designation that we've got, based on a number of factors, but distance to, like other cities and everything like that, and how far our students have to travel. So we were in that designation of prioritized district. And so outside of that, we were selected by a lottery. So we literally won the lottery with this. I remember Shannon called me, it was October 25th, and she says, we just got selected. And I couldn't believe it. But we were one of 372 applicants that were selected in the United States, and one of 13 districts in the state of Virginia that were selected to receive buses. So part of that funding, as you can see there, I just little map showing where the funding went to in the state for that round of grants. Part of that funding included funding for the infrastructure as well, which meant the charging stations. It only covered everything from the meter back to the charger. So if there was an electrical panel, the charging unit itself, that was covered. But everything outside of that, so we did have to pay for a transformer from CVEC to basically plug these buses up. So there was some out-of-pocket expense, obviously, from our end. We placed our order with Sonny Merriman for 2 65-passenger safety liner C2. They call them Julie. Siri. Oh, no. So anyways, once we found out we were awarded the grants, we called Sonny Merriman, placed the order. and we just received them. So they were a little behind on production, but it was well worth the wait, I think. They also came with 2 ABB 24 kilowatt DC chargers. They have a 5-year charge management software. So with that, we're going to be able to watch the statistics of how much energy it's taken to charge these things. We'll be able to see, things like when it was plugged up, how long it was plugged up, how long it's going to take to charge. From 0 to 100%, they estimate 6 to 8 hours, but we're never going to let it get to 0. That would be bad news. So really, the charging shouldn't take 6 to 8 hours. We're realistically looking at hopefully 4 to 5. So our charging stations were installed by a company called Green State Power. They work closely with Sunny Merriman, so they were a great fit to bring in. That's pretty much all they've been doing is installing these charging stations, so it went flawlessly. I was really glad with the work that they did. So the concrete pads were placed, both the chargers and the transformer, and they were installed October 12th. Everything was done of last year. We had to spend about a half a day in the dark at the bus shop for Central Virginia Electric to connect the transformer and whatnot. So like I said, December 14th, took delivery of the 2 buses. You might have seen the one, I brought one here, parked right out front. December 14th. So in that time frame, what we've done is we're trying to find the best routes for them to go on. And because they have to be charged here at our bus shop, it's going to have to be someone who either lives close or someone who comes to the shop every day. We have one driver who she's unable to park a bus at her house, so she drives to the shop every day. She lives just down the street, so it's not far of a commute. But she has the local Lovingston route. So she hits right here at Front Street. She hits the apartments and McDonald's and everything. So it's a very short distance, but she parks at the shop every day. So it was a no-brainer. She's going to get one of those buses for that route. So you'll see it driving through Lovingston every day. The second route that I'm looking at is it's the bus that travels down Adal Road and hits part of Nelly's Ford, and in the afternoons actually goes all the way up to the Wintergreen Gatehouse. So I want to give it a shot. I'm not going to say that that's where it's going to stay. So I tested out the route. I drove morning and afternoon without any charging in between. And I was able to park the bus with 16% charge left, which is a little close for my comfort, but we're still going to give it a shot. I'm not saying it's unrealistic, but we do have other options. With that setup, that also gives us the opportunity for a bus at Tire River to have one and a bus at Rockfish to have one. So I kind of wanted to make sure that both sides of the county were represented with an electric bus. So just some rough math, looking at the percentage of battery power left versus the amount of miles that I drove. We're looking at about 1% per mile of battery usage. So we were given an estimate of about 130 miles for a full charge, but when that was done, that was a straight highway, no stopping, just pedal to the metal until they got, I guess, to 0 or some number. But that didn't take into account stopping, starting, and each time I drove the routes, I had the heat on. I had the air conditioning on because I wanted it to use every component that we would. I didn't make any stops because I didn't have any students to pick up, but just trying to get a ballpark range of what we're looking at for these buses. I think they're going to be relatively successful for the most part, but it's just finding where it fits in the county. I hope in the future the technology will get better and we'll have a longer range. We can look into those kinds of things. But yeah, outside of that, that's all I've got. Do you guys have any questions?
So it's not on a time basis, you're looking at it on a mileage basis?
Yes. So basically, if the bus isn't moving per se, it's not really using the batteries underneath. It still has the 12-volt batteries underneath that power things like your windshield wipers, your turn signals, lights, everything like that a normal bus would operate. So there is an alternator that's going to power that as well. But the bus would have to be moving for it to really be using the actual batteries underneath.
And you did say there are some regenerative properties.
Correct. Yep. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. So I was anxious to see how that worked. So when I left the gatehouse at Wintergreen, everybody knows how steep that part of the hill is. So the regenerative braking was on. And by the time I got to the bottom where it flattened out, I had gained about 1% of battery back. So it is working. But the part that actually amazed me, and I know it'll make our mechanics happy, because of the amount of energy it uses to hold it back to help build that, I didn't have to touch the brake. I actually had to use the throttle to go. Yeah, I know, it blew my mind. It was very hard for me to trust my foot to just touch it going down the mountain. But so we have to play with it a little bit. We have to see what works, what doesn't work, and make sure we find the right fit for the right route. But we're going to give it a shot.
Excellent.
You mentioned that the buses have to be charged at the school, so a regular charger won't work.
So it depends on what the charge, like at a gas station or something like that. It depends if it has the correct connection. I'd have to really look up and see because each station is a little bit different.
Exactly.
So I'm hesitant. I don't think I'm going to send the buses out of the county right now because, for like a sports trip or field trip, because we'd have to ask the other school, like, can we plug up while we sit and wait? So right now we're just going to keep it in the county because the two chargers we've got are at the shop.
Be interested to see the software that comes with it. You said it's a 5-year, so that's really going to show you
exactly.
great data on
it.
it.
It'll pull a bunch of data, and it's set up very similar to like if you were running a business, if we were to like charge, like people had to pay money to use our chargers. So it will show you exactly how much is being used. So it'll get us a ton of data, and I'll be happy to share that with you all once I get it. It goes live, we have it scheduled January 30th for the software, but right now we're able to plug up and charge and kind of sit back and watch.
So the payload doesn't really affect the battery life, it's the weather?
So we have been told, so we haven't transported any students yet. We've been told that the weight of adding passengers won't affect it too much. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, not as impactful as we would think it would be.
Right.
Is I think how it was.
So again, that's more data I want to see once we start, transporting students.
You said 60% doing it, didn't charge it.
Correct. Yeah. So we
16.
16. Yeah, 16 below 20% is when I park.
So my next question is, if we have, say we have early dismissal, how is that going to?
Those are all good things that we have to take into consideration, because we could go a week without fueling a bus with diesel fuel. It could do 10 runs, morning and afternoon, and not even think about it. This one, it's good. The Lovingston route, she could probably get about 2 days of no charging. She could safely do that.
So if we got to school and then we had to...
If we had to leave early, we would have to we'd have to look and see where we're at on the charge.
Okay.
And then make a game plan. Does that bus need to come back for the night?
Okay.
Or put them in a different bus.
Okay.
And I think that's also one of those, like paying attention to the weather and making sure that it's not going without a charge in between.
Okay.
So that route may not do the every other, but make sure you bring it back and it's charging then. Because in theory, it can take on more mileage than what that route is, but if it's inclement weather, then that's what we're talking about. That may have an impact on it. So we want to bring it back and make sure that it is charging to the point we'd be confident if that was the bus we chose to send out, which that's a part of what we would think through is that what we would want to send out in that weather?
Yeah, it's a lot of learning. And we weighed the buses today. Actually, we went down to the landfill, and they weigh about 4,000 pounds more than a normal bus. But there's no engine.
So each axle has its own driveline?
That question I can't answer for you, but I can certainly find the answer.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's It's a very, it drives different, it sounds different, it is incredibly quiet. It has an alarm on the front, actually, it's like a high-pitched ringing noise to alert people that it's moving. So that way, when we're at a stop and we start to take off, if there's a parent or somebody, kid just got off, they know the bus is about to move because it's that quiet.
Wow.
Whereas a typical diesel engine, you'd be able to hear it from a mile away.
Exactly.
This one will creep around the corner and you won't even know that it's there. So,
It's exciting.
And I think it's important to recognize, like, this is a test for us.
yeah.
We're-
this-
this
No
is,
expense to us, though.
well,
at all for
minimal expense.
Minimal
And
expense.
who knows what those charging stations can offer us in the future for other options.
Right.
But I think it's always important, like, this is not a 10, 20-year commitment to buying every electric bus that comes around.
Right.
It is,
Right.
let's see how this works, because we've got to get new buses. Like, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
bus, gas, diesel, we need new buses. And so we want to make sure that we're taking a look at what our options are and measuring it and seeing how does it compare. So
Yeah.
I always want to say, like, no full long-term commitments have been made in
Right.
terms of like every other purchase from here on out. We
And
want
I-
to see what this does.
And I want to see the cost per mile. That's
Yes.
what it comes down to for me. I want to see, are we actually saving money? Are we coming out even?
Well, we're
So-
saving, it's better for the people on the bus because of, the fumes of diesel.
Yeah, there's
not
been
good,
lots of
and the
studies
kids-
that actually
yeah.
showed where electric buses will actually help improve test scores
Yeah,
because kids are not exposed to the fumes on the bus.
yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting. But I did get behind a bus in the electric bus and the fumes still come inside from the other bus. So either way. And speaking of kind of along those lines, if anybody's worried about like, okay, well, there's no engine to heat the bus, right? That bus will burn you out your seat. The heat works great on there. And they also came with air conditioning as well. So we'll actually be able to utilize it during the summer for summer learning.
great.
So that's always been our goal, is to keep everybody comfortable.
You're doing your due diligence, right? Like we got them through a grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That replaced 2 buses that almost had 300,000 miles on them.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
needed to be replaced.
Yeah.
So we can do our own test run to
Yep.
see.
And it'll help us in the long run
Yeah.
because we
No.
got 2 new buses, so.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got 2 buses. Let me just say that. 294,000 miles on them.
Yeah, I'm super excited, so thank you very much for all your hard
Thank you.
work.
Appreciate the
Really appreciate it.
information.
Yeah. All right, now we got the division calendar with Ms. Kim Douglas.
I couldn't help to think about the Magic School Bus series, and maybe we could write our own book in Nelson County of our electric buses. I'm charged about the new calendar for 24-25. So as we start talking about this, I'm charged up and ready. So for the process and the creation of the calendar, as we have in the past, we look at requests from administrative team input. We also send out a survey to our staff, so our Nelson County Public Schools staff members get the calendar survey, which we have submitted and gotten the results from that. We look at a summary of those survey results, and then after we get that survey, we create some draft formats. We have created 3 drafts that you have in front of you. After we create those draft formats, we then submit those or present those to staff, to parents, and to students for input. So our next step in this process will be to put the drafts out to our staff, families, and then our students. And that's what we'll do the rest of this month. The goal at the end of the month would be for the February board meeting to bring back, what that selection process was like, and then what we would like to present as a potential for the calendar for 24-25 for board approval. Some previous highlights of the calendar have been the new teacher instructional planning days, the 4 teacher workday minimum for the start of the year, the Code of Virginia 180 days or 990 instructional hours, some instructional planning days and PD days that are designated days, planning days that are added for each of the 9 weeks. A green day was implemented a couple of calendars ago. We've continued that process. 3 days for planning, 3 days for students at Thanksgiving, 2 weeks at Christmas, 2 instructional planning days in January for that semester change, to end the semester before Christmas break, spring break for 1 full week, Graduation day designated before Memorial Day. Election day was added last year, and async dates were added with teacher planning and meetings during those days. And then summer learning designated dates were included in the calendar. Some parameters that we have are those, the goal as the preference for 90 days before semester break. So for first semester, so to try to get a balanced semester, first semester, second semester for the high school, and then seat time for our graduation credits for students. Parent-teacher conferences in first semester, preference of instructional planning days each of those 9 weeks, like mentioned before, and those, the Code of the Virginia, the 180 days or the 990 instructional hours. And then the 14 instructional planning days as a minimum for our teachers to meet their contractual time. And then a list of summer learning and graduation listed within the calendar embedded there. So we did send out the survey, and you have a copy of the survey that was sent to our staff. And those responses gave us a lot of good information. In those responses, we had some positive aspects of the calendar from this past year, the 23-24. And some of those comments were the planning days were very helpful. The asynchronous days were helpful. They like first semester ending before Christmas break and the 3 days off at Thanksgiving. Some changes that were requested, some of the comments that were mentioned were the start on a Monday. The preference was that they would start later in the week for the first week of school for the little ones. Makes a long first week.
And for the big ones.
Yeah, then for the big ones. Have parent-teacher conferences only on a day with no instruction if possible. And then more balance between the quarters and semesters. The PD, looking at rotation between schools and virtual, that was another suggestion, that they wanted PD days that they couldn't, wouldn't have to travel across the division or travel less often. When you looked at preference for first student day, we had 78% of our staff that suggested the week of August the 12th. We do take that all into consideration, but again, there are a lot of requests. So we have to look at the balance for the semester balance, back to that, and then seat time requirements for the high school students to be able to get those days in at the request of our high school to have that in before Christmas break. Preference for last student day in 2025, we had before Memorial Day again. What day of the week? And again, Wednesday through Thursday was the chosen option for 73% of our staff. Preference to the amount of teacher work days, the request for at least 5 days before the start of school in preparation. Async days, so our asynchronous days that were added last year were very beneficial. We had 59.4% of our staff that noted that. And they mentioned that some things that were able to accomplish where the students could get caught up on unfinished work, teachers could get work done without interruptions, analyzing the data and planning together in teams. They were able to contact parents on those days, and it was good for students to do review activities and to work on some things that they needed additional assistance on. For the future, though, we're looking to move towards using that time for more things like service learning projects. So trying to build that capacity and build that in our schedules with those asynchronous days. Green days were beneficial, they were noted, and that green days helped them to get more work done at home and less distractions and interruptions when working alone. If consideration was given for fall break, they mentioned that they would like to prefer the long winter break instead of a fall break. The long winter break with traditional Nelson calendar was the preference. And then again for fall, on the different days of the week, we know that when we're planning in spring, fall into spring, depending on how the calendar falls with holidays, that's going to really determine when we can put those days in the calendar for first and second semester. So for spring break, the preference was the week prior to April 20th with the following Monday off. That was the preference. And then the format for parent-teacher conferences, we wanted some input on that. We wanted to look at ways to get our parents in, also to help work with our staff, and to really start building the capacity for even student-led conferences. So having families come in with their children. So looking at that, it'd be helpful to have blocked off time for phone and virtual conferences if they couldn't come into the school. To try to do them all on the same day was one of the, or a couple of the comments that were mentioned. And then half day of instruction or a whole day off for students, so that students aren't in classrooms and then having conferences and late into the evening. Students are tired by that point. Their families don't always come in. They're trying to get together dinner, that type of thing. What can we do to get families in throughout the day, maybe a potential half day, and then have our students be able to help lead some of those conferences as well when they come in. List any any other ideas for the calendar planning, and we had some notations of 4-day school weeks, later start date and end date, but finish before Memorial Day. So again, taking into consideration, you have to put all these pieces together, but still meet Code of Virginia. So we can't, take off. There can't be multiple dates in the calendar year that we have to balance that wouldn't equate to that Code of Virginia. So finishing before Memorial Day is the goal. We have to balance that with the start of the school day, start of the year. More time for planning, and we did find more time this year with those async days. It was nice for meetings, that type of thing. And then would like the calendar to be the same as the current year, with several notations made. And then when you look at your drafts, we have 176 student days in draft A, with 14 work days for teachers. And when you're looking at this, you're looking at the start date, looking at instructional planning time, and then the fact that we, in this first calendar draft, we have family teacher conferences with all schools from 12 to 7, and that's built into an instructional planning day. So it's an instructional planning day, then a professional development day, but then you have the conferences built in where you don't have students on that particular day.
Again, these are the drafts and where we get feedback from that, because we're trying to take the suggestions that are coming from our teachers, because it's a long, long day, but it's a long day for the parents and the kids as well. So how do we make that balance take place? And so that's obviously where we would take some feedback.
Draft B, there are a couple of differences in draft B. One is the start date. It's a little later start date, which required some tweaks as far as not being able to provide some additional things throughout first semester to get those days in for first semester for the high school. We have a balance of 88 days and 90 days, 178 total days there with 14 work days. One thing at the start of the year that we've toyed around with over time, we've had a lot of requests for a pre-K, kindergarten type orientation right before school starts. Some divisions around us have a day that the families and the students come in for those younger students. So looking at that opportunity, maybe built into our calendar was a thought there. And then this one also has family teacher conferences, but it's actually in the evening hours there, more of a traditional format. And when you look at the draft C, again, a different start date, well, different than draft A, later start date. And we had to, again, look at some options here that removed some of the planning time that was listed in draft A because of the earlier start date that was allowed there. And then for January, we actually have a green day in there coming off of into second semester, off of first semester. And again, those family communication days are embedded in there as conference days. And we have 176 days and 15 work days. Okay, and that's it for the drafts.
And you take this to the teachers and they all vote on it?
Yes, we'll, again, put out a survey, put the drafts attached, and then get input on that. Okay, any questions?
It'll also be presented to like the advisory groups, parent, student, and staff, or family, community, and staff. I had met with this family community advisor yesterday and said, hey, these are things that are coming down. These are some of the things that we look at, because we emphasize it's an instructional calendar, not a vacation calendar. We have certain restrictions that we have to abide by, and it's a balancing act because the length of day is based off the elementary schools. They have the shortest day, but we have to keep in mind the high school and the seat hours of 140. So 88 days is 142 hours. So that gives us very little buffer room, but it gives us a little. So when we dip down, then we start to kind of impact that. So I think sometimes it's, I spoke at a class today, and she's like, hey, does anybody ever consider a 4-day work week? I said, sure, I think we all consider it, but there's a couple obstacles in the way. One, we would then have to go for much longer or extend our school day, which impacts other things. And then it's the financial impact it would take on our community because we are in a childcare desert. So where would our families go to have their kids watch? Because most of our families will continue to have to work either on that Monday or that Friday. So there's a lot to be considered. And we always say, you're not going to get everything that you want. And that's just, I'd rather people know that right away, that you can't start late and still get out early and get all these different, it's a buffet of things that you want to select from, and sometimes you just can't get it all in, but you want to make the best of all the suggestions that we get. And also keep in mind, we have families we need to work with as well.
Sounds great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we've got a report on first semester discipline by Dr. Yarzabinski. Hi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right. Kind of a tradition now, semester one data. So the data shared with you is actually in the same format as discipline data shared in past semesters. And this allows for relative comparison and longitudinal trends to be observed. So the specific information in your handout compares discipline data from the first semester of the past 3 school years for comparison. Fall semester of 21, 22, and 23. So last year's fall semester depicted a significant increase from the fall prior. And we articulated that this was due to a concerted effort in all schools to address misbehavior or failure to meet expectations of student conduct. It also accounted for the delivery of interventions designed to change said behaviors and positively impact the climate of the school. I believe I stated at this meeting last January that the numbers have increased and will likely continue to increase, but begin to trend more positively as the interventions take hold and high expectations become embedded in our day-to-day operations. So this January, I'm pleased to say that that statement is beginning to come to fruition. The first series of charts in your handout depicts the number of incidents, number of students involved, and then a demographic breakdown by school of these numbers. Data from fall 23 shows an overall 28% reduction in the number of referrals from fall 22, 334 versus 464. This is compiled with a 30% reduction in the number of students receiving these referrals, 177 students versus 253. Kudos to the secondary level. Nelson County High School experienced approximately a 50% reduction in each of those categories, while overall discipline at the secondary level, grades 7 through 12, has shown a 34% reduction in the number of referrals. So Scott, Kevin, really setting high expectations and following through with your teams to make a huge impact. Kudos to you both. The second set of charts puts incidents into their S-bar coding categories. Remember, S-bar is how we compile discipline data and report it to the DOE. It stands for student behavior and administrative response. So it does not only focus on the discipline that is observed, but what responses and interventions have been delivered. 5 out of 6 S-bar categories report a reduction in disciplinary events through the first semester, some by a reduction of almost 1/2 from last year. Only one category depicted a slight increase from the year prior, and that was only by 2 incidents in the BESO category. The top 10 behaviors by frequency are also listed. 7 out of 10 behaviors in this list are returning from last year, yet all with lower frequency with the exception of bus referrals. Overall, we do have a lot to be proud of. Again, kudos to the administrators for their consistent handling of student behavior and discipline within their buildings. Kudos as well to the teachers, behavior specialists, counselors, parents, and resources provided by our community partners in putting forth a tremendous effort to positively impact our school's climate. However, I do not see our colleagues resting on their laurels. New strategies, processes, and initiatives are frequently explored, discussed, and implemented to make continual improvement. In short, I anticipate this positive trend to continue and do look forward to debriefing with you in June to report year-long outcomes. So I know there's a lot of data in that chart. If you do have any questions or want to get more granular with it, I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
You had, I guess that was the report on the, or maybe last year you talked about the number of kids who had repeating behaviors, or like were in there, or maybe it was like the report that was on the governor's.
GPS.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some report on that on GPS, and we can pull that data.
Yeah, I just was curious. That's not.
And
a big
and
deal.
sometimes that goes into the number of referrals versus offenders.
Right, right.
So you can see there is a difference, but you're wanting more like specific, what is the difference? So we
No,
can
I
definitely-
just was kind of curious
Yes.
as if, like, because I have heard before that there's, the vast majority are one-time offenders, and then there might be just a few people who have more, more issues than just one.
Tomorrow, I will create a quick pivot table just to show you the
Alright,
number of
perfect.
repeat offenders, just like 5 students has received 1 to 2 disciplinary referrals. These number of students received 2 to 5. I'll just break it down in a scale like that.
All right, that'd be great, thanks.
And year end, we also go through our audits where we look at different, any kind of differentiation between subgroups. We always try to keep an eye on that and pay attention to, do we see any kind of disproportionality? Do we see any kind of issues that need to be addressed? And we try to keep an eye on that, not just at the end of the year, but as
Right.
we go throughout.
Appreciate that. Anybody have any questions? Can't wait for those pivot tables. Thank you.
You're welcome. Exciting stuff.
Yeah. I can see who's laughing. The Excel.
I send them pivot tables too, that's why I laugh.
Do they know how to do it?
They do. They're getting better every semester.
Now we're going to go to the upcoming budget with Dr. Hester.
The budget portion's not going to take very long.
For those of you who are aware that December 20th, Governor Youngkin released his proposed budget for the upcoming biennium. There were several aspects of this proposed budget that have kind of highlighted the priorities of the administration, such as modernizing the tax codes, income tax cuts about 12% across the board, job growth support, workforce development, behavioral mental health supports, safe communities, good governance. When it comes specifically to education, there has been much kind of proposals of supporting the lab schools that have taken place. Since last year, there's been a lot of initiatives to try to create partnerships with higher ed education systems, and through grants being proposed and facilitated through the higher ed, and creating those opportunities with a strong emphasis on some technology and career and technological education, as well as all different industries. There was a proposal for a 1% bonus for FY25 for all K through 12 SOQ funded positions. I always want to emphasize it's just not across the board positions, all SOQ, and that is for FY25 with an FY26 call for a 2% raise. So the first being a bonus, the second FY26 being a raise, again for SOQ positions, and I believe something similar for state employees. There's also an emphasis on building what they are referring to as a diploma plus, where there's a high emphasis on credentialing in high demand fields. So increasing the requirements and support through funds for increasing these credentialing opportunities. Also through the Virginia Literacy Act, trying to promote money and infusing it into support reading specialists. There has been a very large proposal for early childhood care in various forms, whether it goes through the community, it is being folded under education in order to support these initiatives, whether they are early childhood programs for low-income families, particularly those families with the discontinuing of the pandemic relief funds, encouraging learning hubs with higher educations, particularly in areas of child care desert, greater capacity for child care centers to have that flexibility in the child to staff ratio. So I bring all of these up, that a lot of money is being fused into the system through this initial proposal, and I emphasize it's the governor's proposal. We will now be waiting on the House and the Senate. I'll reflect back on the last year. We were waiting, and then a fourth budget, the skinny budget, was then introduced into this. So we got what we call the calc tool
gets released that allows us to really calculate specifically to Nelson County. We didn't get that until, I believe it was late Thursday night. So we are still working through that. I will remind you that recently for the biennium, the LCI did increase. It rose from 0.5888 to 0.6645, which could be equivalent of about an additional $833,000 that the county locality would be responsible for. Again, it is the suggested capacity of what the county should be able to finance and pay. We are aware that for particularly Nelson County, it seems a bit of a misnomer for how our county is and what it can do. So it does place a great deal of extra responsibility on our locality to be able to fund that additional money. So we are aware that that will be contributing. That is not specific to the governor's budget. What we do see in the budget is the removal of hold harmless funds from rebenchmarking as well as the grocery tax. So that could potentially impact us by about $563,433, give or take. So we do know that there are some, through this proposal, we will right now incur some additional costs that will impact the budget that we develop and require. But I also say this is the initial proposal for the governor. We still have the House and the Senate proposals and budgets and compromises to take place that we're confident that will maybe have more reflections of the JLARC study, more reflections of funds that will help education here in Nelson County. So there are some things that we are calculating and going through to see how exactly does this budget. We see that this is a starting point, like any other budget negotiation. It is very much a starting point. We are hopeful that the end budget that is agreed upon allows for more infusion of money to Nelson County in general, and then Nelson County Public Schools. So that is kind of where we're starting. It's so early, with the calc tool being released a little bit later. I apologize, Ms. Irvin is the expert in being able to deliver this, but really understanding we are taking into consideration in our last school board meeting, you guys laid out what your goals are, staff, salaries, mental health, those areas. When I spoke to our parents in our family community, they reiterated those very same goals as well. They see the need, they support that. So we take into consideration what your goals are, what's been communicated to us, what we recognize as what our needs are, and what we want to support ourselves to be as successful as possible, as well as the requests that we've received from the various departments and schools in general. And we do see, we do anticipate that there'll be some things that we need to look for. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from some of the additions that we've had this year, particularly when it comes to elementary behavioral support. We see some need there. We see that who we've injected there has really provided a lot of support for our elementary, and that then gives our other behavioral specialists an opportunity to then focus on the secondary level, giving them the needed support. And I think we are seeing where that is a benefit to us in our discipline and our overall success. So we will continue to collect the data on that and to see how impactful it is. But we do believe that that is something that moving forward, we're really going to need to focus on the behavioral and mental health supports, in addition to being able to support. I will remind you that January 1, we did implement the governor's proposal from September, the 2%. That always looks a little bit different when you talk about 10-month employees and 12-month employees when they get their checks. But we did decide to go forward with that because we felt it was important for our employees to see that money now, not knowing what our future was going to look like with the budget. So I think we feel pretty confident in that decision right now. So that is kind of our update for the budget at this early date. I know we have a work session. I want to say it was on the 26th, maybe, coming up in January. I could be just maybe the 27th, 25th, something like that. So I know we have the 25th? Okay, perfect. So we know that we'll be working towards having more fleshed out numbers to be able to accurately reflect what's going on. Any questions that I would need to dial a friend for? So
That's it.
yeah, but I say, buckle up. It'll be a ride, and we will continue to
create the best budget that's going to support our students and staff to be as successful as possible to make us a better and stronger community.
Right, and also remember, we always say this every year, that we're supposed to come up with a budget of need, so.
And I look at it as our budget of success.
Right, exactly, right. Anybody have any questions?
Not looking forward to the work session.
Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. But I will say this, I read this newsletter from a legislator who just went out of the, whatever it's called, the General Assembly or whatever, and she encouraged people to call their representatives. So she says, everybody gets emails, spam all the time, but if 5 people call, people are paying attention. So when we're talking about the JLARC study and how Virginia schools have been funded in what the JLARC report says was possibly underfunded, according, comparing to other states, that we could just call our legislators and really tell them the story of Nelson, because we are the child, the poster child of that study, really, I think. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I'll be quiet now. Let's move on.
We did have an opportunity to host for Region 5 superintendents. We hosted a meeting here, actually in this room, where Creed and specific to Nelson, Delegate Lawfer were able to attend and kind of hear some of the things that we're sharing, like things that we're experiencing in our classrooms, increased behavioral concerns, but also the funding structures.
Right.
And I know Creed has indicated that will be looked at. I think it's like anything else, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
But I think we're also promoting, like, there needs to be minimum. We keep talking about, we reference the SOQs, and that is not a funding, but a staffing structure, but it's the bare minimum. When you talk about instructional aides, they're not really included in that, but we can't run our business without the help of those individuals in the role that they play. And so there's a lot of different things. Delegate Griffin and Delegate Lawfer are new. I think there's a belief that Lawfer may be able to make it on the educational committee, so trying to.
She is.
Yeah, great. And so she has reached out. I appreciate the accessibility to be able to say, and she's said, I'd love to come out and I'd love to do a tour of Nelson and really get to understand. She has a little bit of a background in education and has children, so I think being able to explain some things to get the picture of, you can put a whole bunch of numbers out there, the largest infusion of money into the education system, but when you break it down, I think you see a different picture, and specific to how it impacts us here. Maybe not Northern Virginia, maybe not somewhere else, but how it impacts us here. And I think, at the end of the day, that's what we are responsible for. We care about all kids, but we're responsible for ours. And that's really what we want to take a look at to see how do we benefit our kids and staff.
The challenge is we're penalized. When we look at things like the LCI index and what appears to be our ability to pay, we truly are penalized. And that's where it will be interesting if there's higher conversation among rural areas or people who are in positions like us where we've got the student population that is 60% economically disadvantaged, but they're saying as a community we can pay this much, and that's just not the case.
Well, I think you have the overall funding structure that's being discussed, like the SOQs. And then you also have LCI conversation. Unfortunately, through the JLARC study, while it is not a perfect measurement tool, I think they said it is not as bad as they had thought it was going to be. It is bad for us. And I think that's where you look at it does not work well it is not an accurate reflection of what we live day to day. But then you also have this general funding structure, and that's really where it's saying it would take $3 billion to bring us up to the national average in other areas. And then they say the current funding structure for rural schools, smaller enrolled schools, that's where we get hit the most, is the funding structures. So you have those two components, whereas you may have other rural communities that their LCI is lower.
Yes. Yes.
And so then the funding structure hurts them. Well, we have the high LCI and we have a funding structure that is not beneficial to supporting all of our needs. So it is, and through this most recent conference where we all met, we are advocating that. We are a part of COSARS, which is a coalition of small and rural school divisions that we also speak and work with that try to serve to advocate what our needs are and the impacts of some of these legislation that's coming out. That, we're in that season. We'll get updates every week about what is being proposed and what's out there, and see how it impacts the budget.
All right.
All right, go team.
Go team. So speaking of that, go Hester. You got the
Is it
pathways to
pathway?
success?
We ready, Tammy? She was riveted through the budget conversation. All right, here we go. All right, so it is, struggling. Well, can we just press? Okay. We may just have to press return on this. So I will nod at you every time I need you to click return. All right, so it's a short month, but this is where we transition to the really condensed budget building season. So governor's budget was released, the calc tool has been presented, participation in conferences where there's been a specific emphasis on looking through the budgets and different aspects through the governor's budget, or health insurance increases, or different changes to VRS and the retirement system. So all of these different factors go into as we start to build. We've also been participating in joint meetings with the county to discuss our CIP, things such as the high school renovation project that you heard Mr. Campbell kind of talk a little bit about. We were on a call today to really discuss the funding opportunities for these next few, for the big project at the high school. So all these things are coming into play as we go through the budget season. Can you hit return for me, please? All right, for instruction, we have submitted, and our all-in learning plan was approved by the state. So we begin our process of integrating Zern for math and Lexia for reading to be able to support the high-intensity tutoring taking place at our schools. We've also had beginning the process of rostering and training, as well as for principal meetings and trainings for the various professional development opportunities that we have, like providing feedback through observations and being able to support teachers in that manner, as well as the 5 C's, otherwise known as the profile of a Nelson graduate, and building that and building our capacity to be able to support that in classrooms. Also, we have a calendar survey, as you just listened to Ms. Douglas discuss, that's taking place, and the different various trainings that take place when we come back out of winter break. We have a teacher work day, and we also have a professional development day to get us kind of integrated back into the second semester. Can you press return for me? All right, human resources and communications. We went through the process of the teacher of the year. The survey for that took place leading right into winter break. We were able to process all the data on that and have the committees select. And so as we talked about, Christy Massey at Ty River in that far right picture, Gordon Dalton at Rockfish River Elementary School, Bethany Grooms at the middle school, and Paul Cannell at the high school. We also are now in the recruiting season. So Ms. Choate and her team will going to the various locations, like in Bridgewater College and University of Lynchburg, but we have added a new site and locality at Hampton University Career and Internship. We were trying really hard, and I appreciate our efforts of reaching out to some of the HBCU universities and seeing, looking at the footprint of Virginia, but the footprint of Nelson, to see where we could draw and where we can really start to diversify and look into supporting a unique recruiting class that we'll bring in to be able to work with our kids. So that is taking place throughout this month and next month. Pupil personnel, instructional assistant PD, one of the feedback that we get is with our instructional assistants wanting, particularly when it comes to SPED and some other areas, is getting that professional growth opportunity to be able to support the kids. And so that took place, and it was great feedback from those who participated. It was through a partnership with JMU and TTAC, and focusing on the disability characteristics and supports, while also understanding students who are dysregulated. As I mentioned, we have a partnership with JMU. We're really looking to expand that and improve that for the inclusive practices. Planning of family events and night parents for mental health and substance abuse will take place on March 28th, and that's through Region 10. Also, Family Fun Fitness Night in April through PrEP
to be able to support our students and our SPED students and their families and coming out and having a fun evening. SPED teachers will have collaboration PD on the 29th, and we also finished our second Time for Me Thursday with another yoga session, which we had double the participation. So you see the fun activities there in the bottom left of yoga taking place. And again, as we mentioned when we developed the new strategic plan, is having a standalone goal of student and staff well-being, and this is one of the efforts of being able to try to support our staff and their well-being. For technology, really great use of winter break and being able to great time to finish projects taking place, as you can see there. Also, the NCHS Student Repair Academy is now up and running. Kicked off Monday with our first student intern who's a senior at Nelson County High School, which will allow them to really develop some skills. They're also doing an intensive online training, hands-on training to be able to develop those skills. This is a student who just finished a cybersecurity class, which, if I'll remind you, was a collaborative effort with Louisa to be able to have kind of concurrent online and face-to-face classes. And it was just another opportunity to get our students kind of exposed to that world, because it is a growing world with a great employable skill. And it sounds like she is very excited to get into this opportunity. And yeah, I emphasize that for a reason. Class VR glasses and virtual reality are being implemented this spring, really kind of starting out with the 6 through 12 grades. We received 30 headsets, so that'll be really interesting to see how that gets integrated to bring that meaningful and relevant, exciting experience to a student as they learn and bring things to life. And also the help center that is up and running, and you see that bottom right picture. Mr. Cargill put a lot of effort into building this this area that's dedicated to the help desk, where teachers and staff can come and get and check out the things that they need. So I appreciate that. Next slide, please. Maintenance, again, took great advantage of the winter break. They were able to get caught up on work orders, also address some ceiling leaks at the Ty River and Rockfish. We, as Mr. Campbell mentioned, the kettles are now gone. The asphalt portion of the roofing project is complete. Now they're doing the detail and metal work, as you see them progressing through on the top of the high school. And the participation, and I just am so appreciative of not only transportation and maintenance participation in the inclement weather. It takes, talk about One Nelson, it takes a lot to be able to cover this. And all the different areas of our county respond differently. Flooding is a big issue for us, and so I appreciate them going out and taking pictures of what was taking place at that time and what you can imagine was going to be in a couple more hours. So that was a very much a team effort, and I appreciate that. And it's, not just Les, but other members on the maintenance team help out, as well as transportation. So thank you. Next slide, please. Transportation. 15 members of the transportation team became certified in CPR first aid, which was really exciting. You see the first few pictures there. And a thank you to Amanda Fitzgerald and MJ, our athletic trainer, to being able to conduct this training. And they're looking forward to providing other training sessions with Ms. Fitzgerald to provide drivers for other possible medical emergencies. Those types of things that take place on a moving vehicle, you really want to know that your drivers are prepared for that. So I appreciate that collaborative effort. Drivers and mechanics had their holiday potluck meal, where they got together to be able to enjoy each other and appreciate each other, and some good food. Also took delivery of the electric buses, and you see there on the far right. They were also very instrumental at the Lovingston parade to get the book bus going, and that was a lot of fun. And again, like I mentioned, Mr. Ashley and some of his team were also out helping out, taking a look at the roads and see the impact of the weather. Next slide, please. Last but not least, food nutrition. Holiday meal took place not only in November but December at each of the schools to be able to have families enjoy that time. The students enjoy the holiday meal that was put on by school nutrition. But also, Ms. Cannell is working with Ms. Reudinger to promote that wellness aspect. And so they had another, like we said, another Time for Me Thursday yoga session with one of our own, Agnes Schreider, who's helping out with that. So it was pretty well attended. It was double attendance this time. If you can click return, let's see if I get that other thing up there. Yep. Meals served during December, we saw 7,033 breakfasts, 11,430 lunch meals, and 357 supper meals. And that's a short month. So we are really getting a lot out of the CEP program and the efforts of our cafeteria workers that
They really go out of their way to make sure that our students are fed, so I greatly appreciate it. And that is it. All right, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. All right. And a lot of those family engagement pictures are from the last time because we had a short month. We haven't really had a chance to get back into it. And some of them are overflow, and I just like them, so I kept them there.
All righty, let's go with the items for action. The first one is a second reading for a policy JHCDA, which is the naloxone administering to the schools, which you remember we went over last time. Has anybody got any questions? All right. I will entertain a motion to approve that second reading.
I move that we approve policy JHCDA.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nobody abstains? We're good. Thank you very much. Next, we have a field trip request for the BRVGS DC trip, which is normally every year. So I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the field trip.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstain? No, we're good. And also, if you have anything to add, and I forget to ask that, just go ahead and do it. Next is a field trip request for the FFA Block and Bridle Horse Contest in February. Can I have a motion to approve that one, or anybody have any questions or anything? Okay.
I move that we approve the FFA Block and Bridle Contest field trip.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposes or abstains, so, okay, that is approved. And now, were there two? There weren't two FFA.
We did one last one.
Okay.
So we're good, yeah.
All right, sorry, you got me confused. Okay. Now I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the board go into closed session to discuss and consider the personnel report and other confidential personnel matters as authorized by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 for purposes of discussion or consideration of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any body.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nobody abstains? We're good. We are now in closed session. Thank you very much.